Good morning. I'm delighted to be with you this morning at this important V2X Summit. I wish I could be here in person with you. I'm envious of the time you'll spend together today, but I appreciate the invitation to share some thoughts and insights from Utah and our experience deploying connected vehicle technology. Why are we here? Why am I here? Well, it's all about safety. As we all know too well, traffic crashes, traffic fatalities are increasing. We've worked on this for years, but the trend is going in the wrong direction. It's a national crisis. We believe that V2X technology can help us solve this problem. In the Utah Department of Transportation, one of our strategic initiatives is zero crashes, zero fatalities, zero injuries. We believe that this technology, coupled with automated vehicle technology, can help us get to zero. In fact, we believe we won't get to zero without connected and automated vehicle technology. And we know that most of you share this view and share this interest. The Utah Department of Transportation has been working around connected vehicle technology for almost 15 years. We were one of the states that helped AASHTO establish the first connected vehicle working group in 2008. And since that time, we've been planning and developing and discussing and deploying connected vehicle technology. Our first deployment became live in 2017. It was on Redwood Road in Salt Lake County, and that deployment is still running and operating. We continue to move forward with deployments throughout the state. Our deployments are operational. They're meant to be operational. They aren't pilots, they aren't experiments, they aren't test beds, although they bring us the same value, because as we deploy and as we operate, we learn things, we make mistakes, we fix those mistakes, and we're able to move on. Our deployments bring us direct and measurable benefits, and we appreciate that and appreciate the technology's ability to do that. One of the end goals we have is to prepare for automotive vehicles coming out of the OEMs. We want to make sure that when production vehicles come off the assembly line and arrive in Utah, our systems will be able to communicate with them. So we're working hard to make sure that as we move forward, we can achieve that goal and be ready for those vehicles. Our first deployments involved DSRC technology. We advocated for, believed in, and deployed DSRC. The map here on this slide shows the blue dots, which represent the 131 locations inside those two blue boxes, where we deployed DSRC roadside devices. We also equipped 86 vehicles, mostly transit buses and snowplows, with this same technology. That's part of the operational aspect of this system. As we move on and things change, we've committed to using the technology that we have. As you know, today we have 30 megahertz in the 5.9 spectrum and CV2X or cellular V2X technology. And so we're committed to using that and growing our system. The orange dots and the green dots inside these three orange boxes show where we've deployed an additional 207 roadside units and are in the process of finishing the deployment on 185 vehicles, mostly fleet vehicles, which will communicate with these locations. So you can get more information about our deployments in Utah on the Transportation Technology website, link shown at the bottom of this slide. We have a significant experience moving through these deployments and learning along the way, and these deployments continue to be operational. 60 years ago next month, President John Kennedy went to Rice University in Texas and gave what became a very historic speech that put us on the path to going to the moon. I find that speech very inspirational and very aspirational, and I love some of the language. Because there are some parallels, I believe, in what we're doing today and the original moon race, I want to use a few of the phrases from President Kennedy and share with you some of that aspiration. President Kennedy said, "We choose to go to the moon, not because it is easy, but because it is hard. Because that goal will serve to measure and organize the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one which we intend to win." Clearly, our goal to go to the moon in the 1960s was more complicated and a bigger challenge than our current effort to deploy connected vehicle technology. I also think that we're farther along in our efforts to do what we're trying to do than they were in 1962 when Kennedy made these statements. But there are some similarities. A lot was learned along the way. A lot of hurdles were crossed. A lot of challenges were overcome. And we're on the same charge. Today, I would like to propose 4 specific things that I think we need to do in order to move connected vehicle technology forward. The first one of the things I think we need to accomplish is to establish regulatory certainty. We've lived with regulatory uncertainty for about a decade, and it's time for us to settle the issues and move forward. It has been decided that we have 30 megahertz of spectrum and a particular technology in that spectrum, LTE V2X. And so we should grab those and move on. But there are some other things that have not been settled. We need final operating rules. These will come to us from the FCC in the form of the second report and order. I hope that we get those sooner rather than later from the FCC. In that report and order, there are 2 things that I think are really important. First, we need broadcast power limits that everyone can live with. It's not possible for us to use the spectrum and broadcast messages to accomplish critical safety functions if we're being interfered with by loud neighbors. And so we need to solve this problem to everyone's satisfaction. Second of all, we need a permit process, something that we had with DSRC but don't have today. So those of us deploying roadside infrastructure can permit that and operate it with safety. We also need waivers in the interim to operate before we get that final permit process. A number of us have submitted waiver requests to the FCC. Those are out for public comment today. We hope that you will support those and the FCC will move quickly on those so that in the interim, we can continue to deploy and learn. The second thing that I think we need is trust in the system. The vehicles will absorb messages sent by the roadside, SPAT, MAP, and RTCM messages, and they need to know and trust that those messages are accurate, consistent, reliable, and secure. And unless they can do that, they can't use those effectively in their systems. How are we going to verify that that's the case? Well, first of all, we'll work with some existing uniform guidance that we have. We have the Connected Intersection Guidance produced recently, which gives us uniform deployment guidelines at our intersections. We have a new roadside unit standard that replaces the old version that our vendors are working to comply with. And the Connected Vehicle Pooled Funds study that Steve talked about a few minutes ago gives us guidance on how to build maps that work well in these intersections. There are some other things, however, that we don't have yet that we need to continue to work on. Built on the foundation of those existing documents, there are a number of other things we need to continue to develop and refine. The first is a verification process and test tools. As we develop connected intersections and broadcast messages, we need to make sure that we can define what an accurate broadcast is and verify that, in fact, it's happening. There's more work that needs to be done here. We're working hard in the Connected Vehicle Pooled Funds study and with the automakers in the Crash Avoidance Metrics Partnership and other partners to make this happen, but there's a lot more work to be done here. Secondly, we need to verify that once the intersection is operating properly, that it continues to operate properly over time. And again, in the Pooled Funds study, we're working on an initial product to be able to measure that over time, but we need more work. We need to expand that effort so that we can verify in an ongoing basis that the intersections continue to work. Finally, it became clear to us not long ago that the security certificates that our intersections are using with our messages comes from a different trust chain than the security certificates that will be installed on production automobiles. Our system won't be compatible and won't work if that remains the case. So we need to figure out how to get a third party involved in the verification of our intersections so that they can make a choice that our intersections are acceptable and get us the proper certificates so the entire system works together. The great baseball philosopher Yogi Berra once said, "In theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is." These things that I just talked about that we need to do, we can't do in a lab. We need to do in the field. So it's important that we continue to deploy and test and understand in an operational system what works and what doesn't. The things I've just talked about can be done while we're deploying. We can learn as we go. And I think that's important. Third, we need an OEM commitment. V2X systems to achieve safety and save lives won't work unless both the agencies and the automakers adopt these systems in the roadside and in the car. We can't do this alone. We need to be together. And we have been working together a lot on making this happen. But we need a commitment from the automakers that they're going to move ahead with this technology. We can't achieve safety without V2X in production vehicles. Later today, you'll hear a little bit about a V2X survey that ITS America has conducted. And I'll give you just a little sneak peek behind the curtain on one of the things that came out of that survey. Most of the agencies that responded to that survey have some kind of deployment experience. They've deployed V2X systems, but many of those agencies today have paused their efforts. They're waiting for regulatory certainty and an OEM commitment. Now, I realize those two things are tied closely together, and we won't get one without the other, but we need that. The message here is that agencies are ready and willing to move forward once we get those two things. So to make this work together, we need to have regulatory certainty and an OEM commitment so we can all move forward. The fourth and final thing that I think we need is federal leadership. State and local agencies can deploy these systems, but we need a common goal. We need a national plan. We need a commitment to move forward. I've often said that we wouldn't have an interstate highway system today if somebody wouldn't have drawn a map. I realize that's a bit of an oversimplification, but as we move forward with this technology, we need a map. We need a plan. We need to be together in the direction we're going. I believe the US DOT should lead this charge. They need to make a commitment to move forward with this. Help us develop together a master plan for what this should look like. Advocate for the system. Continue to work on developing standards that are so important. Continue to provide funding, as we heard earlier today about some of the funding grant opportunities, and to coordinate with all the parties to move this forward. This is more than just research. We need to build on the great research that's been done by the US DOT with all of these other things, and we need leadership to move us forward. I believe the US DOT is the right entity to exert that leadership. I believe we can do this together, and I believe we need to do this together. I'm envious of those of you who are here in person today, and I hope that in the workshops and breakouts you can brainstorm all the ideas and come out of this with the rudimentary aspects of a plan so we can move ahead together. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be with you today.